What's up, guys? Happy Friday. Welcome back to another episode of AKP Sports Talk. That's Ari. I'm Korea. I know I was gone yesterday, obviously. Personal stuff, hospital. I'm doing okay now, though. But we're just going to get right into today and obviously this weekend. Huge weekend, obviously, filled with a bunch of college basketball and obviously the prime of what we're going to be looking at, the NFL, obviously wild card weekend. But first, we're just going to get into what I have tonight. And on the card tonight, I have Iowa taking their minus 3.5 on DraftKings at minus 130. I like Iowa in this spot. Okay, you look at Nebraska, right? They come off that huge win against Purdue at home, but this is my favorite system. Iowa at home. Iowa is one of the best shooting teams at home. We saw it last game. This team on the road can't shoot, but at home they can beat any team. They beat Rutgers at home by 9. They scored 86 on the road. They struggled on the road against a good Wisconsin team who is making some noise right now. They only scored 72 points, but now they welcome this Nebraska team in, right? And, this is a pretty good letdown spot for this Nebraska team, even though they are an amazing team this year. I definitely say one of the, more, surprising teams, definitely America's favorite right now, especially with, that big win at home against, obviously, the number one team in the country, not even a few days ago. But this is a really good letdown spot for them, obviously going on the road. And we talk about how Iowa, at home, they can shoot the ball pretty well. And, maybe it's because they're used to those rims or whatnot. But, at home, they're just a better shooting team. And, this is a great spot for them. We talk about them at home and, before they have to go on the road and play Minnesota just in a few days. I like them at home, before they have to go on the road because obviously on the road they can't shoot the ball. But I like them at home in this spot. So I'm taking Iowa minus 3.5. I know they're going to cover the spread. I think it's going to be, a very high-scoring game. And with that, I think Iowa does cover, especially since they're obviously a very offensive team, 9th in the country in scoring. But a lot of those are just because, obviously at home, they put up almost 90 points a game, so on average. So I'm taking Iowa to win at minus 3.5. I just think they tally up the points on Nebraska, who is obviously, a very respectable defense. We talked about how they really shut down Purdue was with them forcing turnovers. Purdue forced a lot of turnovers and, that high intensity, fast pace. But that's the thing with Iowa. They can match that because, they have those guards who can, go up and down the court with them and, can shoot the ball well. So I'm taking Iowa minus 3.5 tonight. That's my only bet for the night. Ari, what do you have tonight?
Yeah, I only have one as well. There's nothing in the NBA that stood out to me as of right now with the line, so I'm just going to tennis. The championship of ATP Auckland. We're just a day or two away from the Australian Open, so all the warm-up tournaments are starting to end here. This is a matchup that no one expected in the semifinals. Both Daniel and his opponent Alejandro Tabilo had huge. I think they're both +3, +400 in their matches in the semis, and they both pulled off the upsets. Daniel beat Ben Shelton, who's the top American right now and a top 10 player in the world right now, or borderline top 10 player. And Tabilo beat Arthur Fields, who's another young and upcoming player, in tennis. And Daniel beat Shelton in straight sets, and then as did Tabilo, beat Fields in straight sets. But, over the course of the whole tournament, I've been more impressed with Daniel and what he's shown over the course of this whole ATP Auckland tournament. So it's basically even money, basically. The line's kind of moving up and down from 105 to 110, minus 105, 110.
It looks like Ari froze there, but I think he was talking about Daniel on the money line straight up. I'm going to let Ari dominate all of those, tennis bets. Personally, me, I am not, the most, I would say acclimated when it comes to anything, when it comes to ATP or anything tennis. So, Ari, I'm going to take your word for it. Minus 105, it's still a good, slight underdog, but, we love that, we love that value right there. And welcome back, by the way. But, we love that value, minus 105. We trust you, obviously, as the tennis entrepreneur over there. But now we're going to get into what you guys haven't really been waiting for. Super wild card weekend, obviously. one of my favorite weekends, to hammer some bets, especially for the NFL. And first, we're gonna go to one of the coldest games probably ever in Arrowhead Stadium, and I'm taking the Dolphins to cover. And I know people. Korea, the Dolphins have never covered a spread when it's less than 40 degrees. Okay, well, here's the point, though. When you are playing a game where it's going to be so cold and so windy, what do? You hand off the ball. And in that kind of matchup, the Chiefs don't really have that great of a run defense. The Dolphins have, fast guys moving up, down, sideways, guys with A-chain, you know, fully healthy per se. They have guys, who can go up and down the field, right? And that's the thing, with this Chiefs team, the fact that they don't have the greatest run defense is going to be the one thing that is lackluster. Now, I know you don't playoff Mahomes and playoff Kelsey, and but the thing about this Dolphins team was like last year. Do you remember how they played a really cold game up in Buffalo, right? And everyone was saying, "Oh, Buffalo's going to cover that spread," and the Dolphins almost outright won that game. I just have a feeling, Mike McDaniel's probably going to coach up something defensively, especially now that he has to deal with no Bradley Chubb. Obviously, they lost, their pass rush in that Week 17 game against the Baltimore Ravens. But I feel like the way that the Chiefs offense has kind of been a little stagnant, especially in the past game. And this kind of weather, it's going to be horrible. You're not going to be able to catch much, and you're going to have to depend on your run game. And Pacheco can get it going sometimes, but sometimes he gets stalled, and he doesn't really get anything going. So especially when you have speed on the outside, with A-Chain, Hill, and especially with Hill, this is a lot of people aren't talking about this, but this is Tyreek Hill's first game, back in Arrowhead. Since the trade, obviously. So, a lot of personal feelings for him, going back to where his career was started out as a Kansas City Chief. I do like the Dolphins to cover the spread. I think it's growing, in the wrong direction for a reason. I think it's just, obviously the Chiefs bettors, at home in this cold weather, everyone's thinking that the Chiefs are just going to cover the spread, obviously, just because it's a home game. Obviously you don't bet against Mahomes and, the cold weather and everything. But I think the Dolphins make this really interesting. I think it's going to be kind of like last year, where the Dolphins, even though a lot of people are hammering the home team, I think the Dolphins just, make it a little interesting just because of the fact that, this weather is going to be really horrible and just hammer them on the ground. So I think because of the fact that this weather is going to be bad and, just cold and windy, I'm taking the Dolphins plus 4.5 just to, establish the ground game against the Chiefs run defense that has been, a little bit suspect on the year sometimes. So I'm taking the Dolphins plus 4.5. And I know everybody, I hate it too, but I'm taking the Cowboys -7. Look, this team at home is different than this team on the road, okay? And it's going to have to start sometime. A lot of people have been saying the Cowboys are a Super Bowl sleeper and all that noise, but, we always say, this team has to make it past the second round to be considered a Super Bowl sleeper, in my opinion. And for the Cowboys in this spot, obviously, they're a 7-point favorite at home. Obviously, they're playing the Packers, who offensively have kind of got themselves under their own foot, as of late. But I'm not taking anything as if you're going to take anything from last week, I wouldn't. Obviously they were playing the Bears in a weird game where the Bears offense couldn't get anything and the Packers offense was kind of stalling throughout that game in terms of the pass games early on, but then big plays. That's kind of how the Packers really kept themselves a lead in that game, was the fact that they got those big leads but they couldn't really finish, and then obviously Anders Carlson missing field goals didn't really help you there. So it just seemed like the Packers couldn't really finish in the red zone. And, against the Cowboys team that's going to get a lot of pass rush and a lot of pressure on Jordan Love this weekend, I don't think it's going to be a great matchup for them. And then obviously on the other side of the ball, we look at how Dak Prescott has played a little bit better this year. He has not turned over the ball 10 times. He has not thrown 10 interceptions. And that was the one thing he talked about he was not going to do this season. And he only threw 9 interceptions on the year. And, we just found out that Jair Alexander was, there's there, but in this case, I definitely, excuse me. Oh wow, I definitely like the Cowboys -7 in this game. When we talk about just teams getting it done at home, and the Cowboys have had a lot of playoff trouble in that building, whether it's the Niners, the historical rivalry with the Packers, and we remember the last time the Packers went down the Joy Road and Aaron Rodgers, they left too much time, and that was Aaron Rodgers. Okay, this is Jordan Love. Okay, no disrespect to Jordan Love in any way, shape, or form, but personally, I just don't know if he's really going to be a big factor right now. Um, and I do think that the pass rush for the Cowboys is going to make it interesting to see how the offense for the Packers really gets themselves going. And then you look at the defensive side for the Packers. I mean, they could barely contain Justin Fields, for God's sakes. And the Packers defense has been up and down all around. And, they don't really contain over the middle. And that's where CD likes to thrive. So I expected kind of a big day for Dak and CD. So I'm just taking the Cowboys -7. And then obviously in pretty much the game of the first round, arguably, the Lions, their first home playoff game in 30 plus years, and just so happens to be against the quarterback that they drafted #1 overall back in 2009 as a member of the Detroit Lions from the Georgia Bulldogs, coming in to face his old team. Now, obviously, there is the other side of it, Jared Goff playing his former team, the team that traded him away for Matthew Stafford. And obviously, we saw the success of the Rams, obviously winning that Super Bowl in their home field just a few years ago. But now they're back in the playoffs and in the spot. And I hate fading the Lions because this is such a personal game for them. Obviously, they want to represent the city so well, but that pass defense is so suspect. And even with the Rams offensive line issues and potentially the Detroit's pass rush probably making it a game, Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp have done so much with so many different pass rushes in their face. And I remember a game back a few years ago where it was Tampa Bay, where in their pass rush, and I thought they won that game. And then Matthew Stafford, all of a sudden he finds Cooper Kupp over the top and they kick a field goal and win. That's how the Rams get it done. And I think the Rams are going to somehow, some way get it done against all odds, obviously going into one of probably the loudest environments of the weekend, where it's going to be just all Detroit. They're even banning any Matthew Stafford jerseys. I'm pretty sure it's a Lions Matthew Stafford jersey. So any Stafford jersey there is banned. So it's obviously just personal for Detroit. But I like the Rams in the spot. We talk about the Rams and how their pass game has pretty much been at the top of the top for the past few weeks. It's number 2. I think their whole offense is number 2 in the country right now in terms of efficiency and how they get deep in the red zone. The one suspect thing about the Rams obviously would be their pass defense, and that's where Jared Goff is probably going to attack the most. But I feel like in this game, I think the Rams are going to make this interesting. I think they cover in this kind of offensive game. I think this is going to be, we're going to see a lot more high scoring. I think this is going to be the game where we're going to see a lot of high scoring. Obviously, this is in the dome, so no concern about weather or nothing. And, this is familiar territory for Matthew Stafford, so he's not going, to where, somewhere like this is a familiar place, and he knows how loud this environment can get. So, in the loudest of the moments during the regular season, or or big games or whatnot, I like the Rams in the spot +3. I think some way somehow the Rams are going to get it done on the money line as well. But I hate, and I know they're such a public favorite, but they're a public favorite for a public dog, but they're a public dog for a reason. It's because of the fact that the Detroit Lions have one of the more suspect pass defense. We saw it the past few weeks when the Vikings put up numbers against Nick Mullins of all people. Nick Mullins, like they let Nick Mullins cook against that secondary. So I think Matthew Stafford has a great day. So those are my 3 picks for the weekend. Obviously, there's more games, but the Browns Texans game, I saw that line moving one direction, and I didn't really like it. And then obviously the Bills game, I think that spread is just too large, especially for what kind of weather we're supposed to have. So I may lean the under in that one. And then obviously, I think the last one was the Eagles and Bucks game, and I don't really like either side. I can't back a team that only put up 9 points against the worst team in football. And then you talk about the worst team in football. The other team looks like the worst team in football right now. So, I'm just staying away from those 3 games, but I'm taking these 3. I'm taking the Dolphins +4.5. I like their matchup, especially in that cold weather matchup, just on the ground, making it a lot more competitive. Cowboys -7. I think a lot of people are on the Packers for the wrong reasons. I think the Cowboys -7 is the right look. And then the Rams +3. I know it's the public dog, but it's a public dog for a reason, because I think they're going to outright win. So I sprinkled the Rams money line as well. Those are my 3 picks. Ari, what have you cooked up?
Yeah, I've got 2 plays. One, I think it's, I guess I don't know. I don't know who's public between the Texans and Browns. Obviously, you have the rookie Stroud, the rookie coach D'Amico Ryans against the veteran Joe Flacco, who came off his couch in the middle of the season to lead Cleveland obviously to the playoffs. The Browns have their defense, but the Texans defense isn't too shabby themselves either. The Texans, I just think Stroud, I think he has the confidence coming off the win, over the Colts last week. Obviously, it was tight, and there was some luck involved with the drop at the end and all that. But I just like the Texans offense to do enough, in front of the home crowd. That's obviously going to be electric. Obviously, in this one, I think this is the first game on Saturday afternoon. So I'm taking the rookie and the rookie coach, Stroud, Ryans, and the Texans to get the job done at home in this one Saturday afternoon. And then this one's probably pretty chalk too. The under Dolphins Chiefs, like you said, one of the coldest weather games in I think NFL history at this point. I think we're going to see a lot of running from. I think Mostert should be healthy, so Mostert, A-Chain. And then Pacheco. So the joke is that Chiefs wide receivers can't catch the ball in normal weather. So how are they going to catch the ball? When it's like -30 was what it feels like. I think is what I saw. Obviously that's a joke, but I think it's going to be a lot of short passes, a lot of running, a lot of kind of controlling the clock. Dolphins trying to keep the ball out of Mahomes' hands, and then Mahomes. Not being able to get enough big plays to, score enough points for this to go over 43.5. I consider the first half under as well. I think it was like 21 or 22.5, but I'm just going full game here. So I'm going Texans money line to get the job done at home over the Browns. But obviously both great stories on both sides, obviously. And then Dolphins Chiefs under. And one of the coolest games in not just playoff history, but NFL history.
Yeah, you mentioned the Texans money line, and I've been on both sides. I like the Texans as a home dog, but then, seeing those stats about Joe Flacco, being 5-0 in the wild card, 5-0 straight up against the spread, and it's just tough for me to go against playoff Joe Flacco and that experience, that he brings. So, I just hope for a good game in that kind of sense. So I'm officially off of that, but I do hope the Texans to pull out the money line win for you. Obviously, CJ Stroud in that exciting offense, but they're going to have a task full against, a really great secondary and a good secondary, and a good pass defense in the Cleveland Browns. Obviously one of the top ranked defenses in terms of scoring, coverage and all that in their secondary. So I do like. I do think it's going to be obviously a fun game, and obviously you mentioned Houston Texans, their first home playoff game in a long time, and ironically, this is the Deshaun Watson Bowl. Honestly, not for great reasons. Obviously, it's kind of funny that Deshaun Watson's not even playing this game, but Texans traded obviously Deshaun Watson away to Cleveland, so obviously a little rivalry there. But I do like the Texans potentially to win on the money line at home, but I would not be surprised if the Browns somehow pull out this one, with Joe Flacco, and his playoff experience, and that could potentially set up a really intriguing match between the Browns and the Ravens. Joe Flacco facing his former team that he led to the Super Bowl not even 10 years ago. That could be something. But I agree with you with the Dolphins and Chiefs, man. That game's going to be so low scoring. I mean, it's going to be bad. I mean, I'm telling you, it's going to be. I mean, I've been seeing a expected wind chill of -23, so it's going to be cold, windy. You already know there's going to be a lot of drop balls. I remember I think the coldest game since then was the infamous Seahawks and Vikings game, that wild card game in Minnesota, and that finished 10-9. So that was a great look for the under there. So I think that look for your under here is going to be a great look for tomorrow night. I think it's just going to be very low scoring. Obviously you mentioned Dolphins getting their ground game going, using the clock down, and then Mahomes, trying to, attempt to get an offense going, but the Chiefs do lead the league in drop balls. So, so I do think this game's going to be low scoring. I do like the Bills and the Steelers to go under as well. As I said, another cold game. I think it's going to be wind chills and I think a foot of snow at that game potentially. So, one of those games where, the Steelers may use their ground game and, the Bills may, try to, stop them with their defense. And then obviously on the offense side of the ball for the Bills, trying to, establish something maybe with Leonard Fournette, who they've used a lot more recently, and James Cook. But, those are always two picks for this weekend. Texans money line at plus 114, and then the Dolphins Chiefs game just to be very low scoring. I agree with him there, under 43.5. And then going back to my 3 picks for the weekend, I'm taking the Dolphins on the spread plus 4.5. As I already said, it's going to be very cold and low scoring, and I'm just taking the Dolphins to cover that 4.5 point spread. I'm on the Cowboys -7, and I'm on the Rams +3. Obviously, a very exciting weekend full of many sports. You can find all of these plays posted once again below on our Twitter. That is AKP Sports Talk. But that's going to do it for this episode of AKP Sports Talk. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Ari, do you have anything else you want to say? All right. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Obviously, we'll have more posts on our Twitter coming up throughout the coming days in terms of full card. Obviously, we will have our full card for Saturdays posted tonight. Obviously, as well for me, I'll have my college basketball slate as well posted tomorrow. A bunch of games coming up this weekend. And then obviously we'll have Sunday slate posted Saturday night. And we'll be back soon enough to recap all of these bets and obviously give up some best bets for the upcoming weekend and give our results for how they do this, how these teams do this coming weekend. But that's going to do it. I'm yapping too much. That's Ari. I'm Korea. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'll see you guys soon.